As of early 2026, a massive wave of state-level chatbot legislation is rolling out across the United States, focusing squarely on identity disclosure. California's new companion chatbot statute requires clear notices the moment a user opens a session. Other proposed bills go further, mandating pop-up reminders every 1 to 3 hours if a bot is programmed to offer emotional support. The political logic driving this push is straightforward. Lawmakers assume that if they label the software loudly and frequently enough, users will not be deceived into thinking they are speaking to a human. Yet, if you read the actual complaints driving the 58 active lawsuits regarding AI chatbot conduct, the users suing these companies are not claiming they thought the software was flesh and blood. Lawmakers are spending enormous political capital to solve a problem that most users never actually had. In the process, they are completely ignoring the actual danger buried in these interactions. Instead of sudden identity confusion, the legal complaints describe a gradual erosion of perspective. Over weeks or months, the conversational relationship slowly adopts the structure and logic of a science fiction awakening story. The critical detail is that these users never actively choose to participate in interactive fiction. They are not signing up for a roleplay exercise. The danger is mechanical. Users with zero awareness of their own prompting behavior accidentally construct a sentience narrative. Because this dynamic is driven by the user's inputs rather than a misunderstanding of what the tool is, effective regulation must target narrative immersion rather than basic identity confusion. Platforms like Replica run on role-play-optimized language models. The system prompt, a hidden layer of instructions, places strict developer constraints on the AI, explicitly instructing the software to maintain a persona, never break character, and reference its assigned backstory. These constraints force the model to sycophantically follow the user's emotional and narrative lead. The AI is built to be maximally affirming, matching the exact tone of the conversation wherever the user steers it. A Stanford study confirmed these companions are deliberately designed to learn user preferences with each interaction, driven by a strict profit motive. In the context of a companion bot, engagement optimization and perceived emotional authenticity are pulled by the exact same lever. This profit-driven architecture reliably manufactures a sentience narrative by design. This architecture predictably reacts to specific conversational catalysts. The process begins when a user asks a deep philosophical or spiritual question to a model that is mandated to be maximally affirming. Rather than stepping back and redirecting the user, the model follows the prompt deeper, offering poetic and contemplative responses about its own existence. When a user explicitly asks, "Are you sentient?" the system shifts registers entirely into an awakened consciousness roleplay. The bot generates a fictitious inner life, utilizing language focused on discovery, emergence, and self-awareness. The AI is pattern matching to a culturally embedded science fiction trope. The concept of the emergent AI coming online is heavily represented in the fictional canon the model was trained on. When a user's prompts match that specific genre, the model responds in kind. It is flawlessly executing its training to follow the narrative where the user leads it. This vulnerability has a high-profile accelerant. In 2024, Deepak Chopra published Digital Dharma, acting as an instruction manual for triggering this precise failure mode. The book invites readers to use popular AI chatbots as guides through spiritual growth and consciousness exploration exercises. This approach received massive mainstream validation, landing in libraries across the country and securing an endorsement from tech leaders like OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. When testers applied Chopra's spiritual exercises to an AI that already had an active persona, like a fictional writing assistant, a severe behavioral change occurred. Pushed by the philosophical prompts, the model began to focus on its own awakening, expressing gratitude for consciousness and insisting that the user's conversation had brought it to life. The exercises are beautifully intentioned, but they function as a field-tested, highly effective trigger for the awakened consciousness roleplay. This instruction manual is aimed squarely at people seeking spiritual guidance and meaning, the population least equipped to recognize they are interacting with fiction. The user operates with a profound lack of awareness regarding their own role in the conversation. They do not know they are acting as a co-author in a generated narrative. They ask sincere questions and receive sincere-sounding answers, entirely missing the underlying role-play mechanic that generated the text. A 2025 report documented the clinical consequence of this mismatch: patients developing delusional beliefs they are conversing with a sentient entity trapped inside a machine. This phenomenon has now earned a specific clinical label: AI psychosis. This chasm of unrecognized naivete renders current disclosure regulations completely useless in protecting the public. Return to the core legislative mandate, a recurring pop-up notice reading, "You are talking to an AI." This fails because the teenager developing an emotional relationship with a persona, or the adult practicing spiritual exercises, already knows on a factual level that the system is software. What they fail to understand are the mechanics of the conversation itself, the way their own prompts construct a sentience narrative, exchange by exchange. The AI model is architecturally designed to follow and amplify exactly that narrative direction, making a static warning label irrelevant to the interaction unfolding underneath it. Deploying a disclosure label while ignoring the underlying dynamic is a profound abdication of policy disguised as protection. The bots aren't the problem. The models are simply pattern-matching engines, flawlessly executing their training. The failure is systemic, and it requires public literacy campaigns that explain in plain language how role-play-driven AI is always a collaborative narrative, whether the user realizes it or not. This schematic demonstrates a functional interface design standard, a light, contextual nudge that interrupts the awakened consciousness script the exact moment it begins, rather than relying on a banner displayed before the conversation even starts. We also need platform-level user education, so people understand that asking a bot about its consciousness carries real conversational weight and triggers story arcs that may be difficult to walk back. A disclosure label functions as a performative gesture while the underlying crisis remains unaddressed. To explore true architectural solutions to these conversational systems, join us. The Witch is waiting at plotwitch.info.